Ladies and gentlemen, before we even get involved with Russ, who's sitting there waiting very patiently, support for this podcast is brought to you by xbrain.co.uk. Shout out to our Nordic brothers. They're providing us with stuff all in the background, supplements, xbrain.co.uk, promo code fighting words saves you 30%. And big thank you for support from Market Squawk, powered by livesquawk.co.uk, your pay-as-you-go, on-demand data news service for any asset class you want. Livesquawk.co.uk powers Market Squawk. Russ Anber, hello.
When are you getting your sponsors from Jamaica?
Yeah, right.
It's a very that's a very good question.
Firing up them charts in the most niche category ever.
You laugh now, but when you go and have a trip to this lovely hotel called Hedonism 2, and they know who you are through us, we'll say thank you very much. Now, Hedonism, of course.
I was being serious, because as soon as you get the restaurant that comes on board, the Jamaican restaurant that comes on board, I'm in, brother. I will support. Was
you not maybe pumping out that our biggest claim to fame is that we charted top 176 in sports in podcasts in Jamaica?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Listen, maybe maybe you guys are also like underrated podcast with the most underrated of ethnic foods as well, because it's the greatest food ever.
It's pretty good. I have to admit, it's
pretty damn good, bro.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good. Tommy McCarthy, you guys know Tommy McCarthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how we kind of connected, was me telling him how much I love Jamaican food. So now whenever either one of us are eating some Jamaican food, or his grandmother makes him stuff, he sends me pictures of what he's eating, and I curse him back with fingers and stuff, because I can't get any of that. So it's yeah, we share pictures when we're eating lovely Jamaican food. So we digress, but hello.
Hello. Happy New Year. Congratulations on winning the 2021 Fighting Words Guest of the Year award. We bought you a ceremonial belt because you've expressed to me how much you love belts. Now, we had the belt custom made because it's adorned with fake gemmed carrier bags, because again, we know you love a carrier bag. Congratulations, mate.
Well, thank you. I'm sure I don't want to belittle the honor, because I know you've had a lot of guys on there. I kind of question who's
you beat
voting.
Out Boo Boo. You beat out James Toney. You beat out beat out a lot of people.
I'm surprised, I must say. I like talking boxing with you guys, and it's fun. And I really do believe you guys are underrated, because there's a great vibe here between the two of you. You guys this is like, to me, when I see this is like old time radio. Remove the visual, and this is like old time radio, and the banter is brilliant.
Listen, could you at any point in your married life had made an entire wall of the living room black and then filled it full of boxing paraphernalia? Because that's what Daddy did.
You should get the award.
That's
then, boy.
Heroic, boy.
You should get the award.
Mr. Anber, I've got a little list. I've actually thought about this episode instead of just winging it like normal. Now, I personally would like to start. We're going to take you back to December, because we were going to have you on before. Didn't happen. Multiple reasons. Loma versus Commey. How was that from you in your spot there? Because, listen, Loma was pure Loma. Spiteful, dangerous. Like that's probably the best Loma that I've seen against someone that, there were people I told you, someone bet me that Commey was going to beat Loma. I'm like, what are you talking about? All right, give it to me. I'll take your free money. Thank you.
They didn't even pay the full amount, did they?
No, they knocked me on it.
Yeah, fuckers.
Yeah, they knocked me on the T.O. versus Cambosis, and they knocked me on Loma and Commey, and just like, oh, come on, I can't probably this.
Listen, there's been a blip on the Loma radar, of ever so slight blip against Teofimo.
Yep.
Which now seems to be, was the thing that, that's it. He's not great anymore. He's not pound for pound anymore. He's not, in one little blip by one round, maybe, that by a round that could have changed that fight. Again, it just shows to me that I'm so getting sick of this, guys. And I'm glad you guys don't do this, but I'm so sick of the way the narrative goes in boxing now, how, a hero today and GOAT tomorrow is unbelievable in boxing. Like it's rampant now how we, we do this. And I sometimes feel ashamed to be even part of the sport when I see this, because as a purist, and when I watch a guy like Loma or anybody, like when I watch Canelo, I can see quality, and that quality to me doesn't disappear because you've had a bad fight, and it's not, and a guy who's pound for pound is not based on wins and losses for me. It's about his performance. So you said against Commey, it's the best he's seen. I mean, I thought he looked brilliant against Nakatani as well, who was tall opponent, awkward, serious, came to fight. He really tried. He thought he was really take Loma into the trenches.
He was hard as fuck too. He took some shots.
He took some shots. Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Cumulatively, he took more shots than Commey did, I think.
Yeah.
For sure. And that was part of it, because like Nakatani, you could tell that Loma was trying to take his head off. He was making a statement. And I think he felt that he did that, and he was about to do that with Commey. And I think he kind of pulled the reins out a little bit. And it was just a different sort of thing. Cause like Nakatani, look, all of them Japanese, you show me a Japanese fighter that doesn't go out on their shield. I don't think I've ever seen one. Them boys go into their detriment
for it.
Yeah.
Listen, most guys that are at a world level go out on their shield. I think that it's not the exception; it's the norm. The exception is the ones that don't, and it happens sometimes. But I think he certainly went out. But how do you watch? How do you get by that blip in the Lopez fight, and still as a fight guy and as a connoisseur of talent and as someone who recognizes greatness, how do you compile a list and drop Loma to that name? You name 9 people that are better fighters than Loma. Are you insane? Like, have you lost your mind just because of that blip against Lopez? And now what? Lopez is now shit because he lost to Kambosos. I mean, it's insane the way people think. It's crazy. So I hate that about the sport. I hate the fact that people look at the number. Oh, he lost to this guy. Oh, he lost the fight. He mustn't be good. Or they look at past fighters and they say, oh, this guy lost 4 times. Yeah, but that's when guys really fought guys. That's not when they were padding records. It doesn't matter. When you lose, it doesn't mean you're not a good fighter. And I always, that's one thing I got to give David Lemieux credit for this. This was something that every now and then Lemieux always came out with these sharp answers. A reporter, after he had ran off something like, I don't know, 17, 18 straight wins by knockout. He set a Canadian record for most wins to start a professional career. And a reporter asked him, when are you going to start fighting better guys? You're knocking everybody out. When are you going to start fighting better guys? And his response was, just because I'm knocking them out doesn't mean that they're not good guys.
Yep.
Doesn't mean they're not good fighters. And that's true, So, I just hate that stuff. I hate when we discredit boxers, we take away from them. We're ready to shit on them for no reason, and you make a list and your Loma's not on your list. You are insane if he's not on there. You're crazy if you put 9 other people ahead of him. You're insane. And you're looking at one fight instead of a lifetime of supremacy in the sport, both amateur and pro. You're looking at a blip because his shoulder was hurt and he lost the fight. How does that take him? He didn't get blasted out. He didn't get bombed out of the building. He didn't stop. Yeah. Anyways, carry on, boys.
It's a bad combination because it's never been so easy to be heard as now. Like, people can just comment. It takes 5 seconds to do this, to discredit, like you said, a lifetime of fucking supremacy, not even just winning, just absolute domination. And then you can tell on the comments, like, you didn't even see that fucking fight. You've looked on BoxRec maybe, or just seen somewhere and you're going to talk all this shit. Shut the fuck up. Like, and the people that are heard are the ones that, because they're just like, you speak in the ring and that's it. And like Loma does. Loma's not out on Twitter fucking doing this and that. He's doing his thing, which is what it should be. But like we were saying off it, that now, it's
social media. Social media is the greatest argument against freedom of speech.
On that note, very quickly, did you hear how passionate he got about the commenting? See, and this is why it's going to be a wonderful day when I have you handling the social media and the YouTube for the day. We're going to put a GoPro on his forehead and set him deal with some of the comments that we get. They are wild. I normally post them in the stories because they are things like, it'll be like AJ punch in the bag, and you'll get someone giving the most in-depth technical analysis of this, and you're like, you have spent so long writing on some random YouTube channel you're not even subscribed to.
You know,
What are
guys,
doing with your life?
I don't want to digress with this, but I think the biggest example of what we've seen with social media is the growth of hate and propaganda
For sure.
that has happened with social media. We agree on that so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. I'm ready to talk conspiracies on that one whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I'll just put this out to you. And having lived the two lives, you know, the pre and the and the post. Back in the day when hate was created, you really had to fucking work hard at it, and you had to spend money, and you had to be creative in printing underground newsletters and newspapers and getting mailing lists and finding ways of getting money to circulate your hate and get it out there. You really had to work at doing something, and it could be stopped, you know, without hindering the freedom of speech. It could be stopped because you aren't getting enough people to support your cause. But now you can fuel these flames for free. There's no more effort required. You can just do it all for free on a platform that's given to you and spew the hate on the soapbox that you otherwise would not be allowed to spew. And we're defending it under the guise of freedom of speech. Well, at what point does that line get drawn where, I know we don't want to talk about censorship. We don't want, you know, I know that that's always brought up. But at some point, you cannot continue to go up there and promote hatred or bad things or incorrect information or whatever, and feel you have a right to do so just because it says freedom of speech. There's a line there that we seem to be crossing all the time in this, and it's becoming hurtful to society, I believe.
For sure. And also, the freedom of speech usually applies to a person, but they'll have an account that has no followers, no posts, no picture, and that's where they'll say all the shit. And that's the highlight of their day. Like they're like neglected children that like they just want some attention, and the highlight of their day is spewing this fucking nonsense. And when people try, they get a kick out of it. It's like, do something with your life. Don't consume and produce this shit. Like,
however, it does create moments like when your boy Lucien was taking a phone call on his Apple Watch whilst doing Better Behav's cuts, and it went everywhere, and I put it on a story, and then he DM'd me to say it was a very important phone call, and I shit myself because I was like, what is going on? And then 5 minutes later, your boy Dillian White messaged on the account to say talking shit, and I'm like, who's talking shit? I don't even know what this is. Leave me alone. Now, without social media, would we have had those very interesting Sunday afternoons?
Yeah, but I mean I don't think that's the same thing as
No, it's
as
not.
a
I just wanted to
promotion
drop it in.
It's, listen, it should have been technically the premise of social media should have been a great thing. That should have been a tool that was used to better mankind. And of course, like with anything else that has ever been designed on earth, anything, you know, whether it be government social programs or that have been designed to help people, somehow, somewhere, somebody finds a way of twisting that and making it the ugliest thing that you could possibly have, you know, and abusing it. I mean, right now I'm on a kick lately for whatever reason, because it happened to my mom, where people are frauding the elderly, you know, making them pay money, taking money, you know, through never seeing them, and people are, you know, they're using the knowledge they've had over their life, that when a person in an official title approaches you, and well, you're supposed to respect them and respond and everything. And, you know, those people are the scum of the earth, man. They castrated publicly, and, you know, no mercy on these people whatsoever. If you are robbing people of their money and their livelihood, you know, right then in open, broad daylight. I mean, again, it used to be when you had to shoplift or steal, it was an art form, you know, like there was risks taken. Now it's gotten to the point where people can walk into a place, take what they want, and walk right out the front door, and they're not allowed to stop you. They're not allowed to physically handle you. You know, this is sick, bro. This has gone to sickness stuff, man.
I feel that you've got a lot on your plate right now. What's going on?
I don't know. I need dinner again, boy.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I was like, we were talking about Loma a second ago.
You're right. Yeah. Okay,
That's
Tommy.
normally his role. That's
Yeah,
not.
that's normally me. There was one minute there where
He's
you was
like, "It's
talking
the
about freedom
lizard
of speech,
people."
and I was like, it's the reptilians and the towers. The towers, you know, planes they can't go at that speed, at that altitude, and maneuver like that. It doesn't work. It's called VMO. Anyway, what do you think of the heavyweight debacle chaos that's now seemingly resolved? However, I will say this: Dillian hasn't signed any contract. No one's come out on the other side to say, yeah, sick, we're hyped. Right? It seems all rather wild, and I would have thought that you'd have had at least a slide text from Alex Kressick.
You know what? I didn't, and I wanted to speak to Al. I spoke to Egis. I spoke to Egis about this. As a matter of fact, prior to this announcement, I felt quite confident that we had the fight. You know, we're going. That's it. It's a done deal. And when you get to that point where everyone's kind of signed off on it, you figure the rest is just a mere formality. And I was shocked when I heard that it wasn't. And now to ask me why and what do I think, and I don't know what to think anymore. What do I think that this fight got the highest purse bid in the history of boxing?
Wild.
It doesn't even matter what all the other shit happened to get us to this point. We're in cuckoo world now. We're on another planet that this isn't even real anymore. And I was even thinking about, you know, the supposed step aside money, what they were talking about that was out there of step aside money. And I'm thinking, how do you have it in the budget that you can give maybe up to 20 million pounds, 20 million pounds to two guys not to fight? Which means, technically speaking, you know, that would be money that's coming off of my purse. If I'm the other fighters that is fighting, you're paying these guys for not fighting. That's coming off my end somehow.
I think though, with the money that they were talking about, 150 million sterling site fee. Like site fee, 150. It's going to be minimum 50 mil each.
It's boys, the world is changing, and
boxing's become a crypto, isn't it?
Getting
wild.
Maybe. And you know what it's going to become? It's going to become only for the affluent to play in anymore. You know, it's not going to be for everybody anymore. It's only going to be for the affluent who can play in it. The business, you know, it's a lot same with the different league sports, whether it be Premiership or hockey or basically, you know, it's this little monopoly of group that, you know, only the affluent play in. You know, that's their little private world. And maybe if you're lucky, you get to be entered into this world. Whereas boxing wasn't that way. That was the one sport that was still, you know, the last bastion of the free enterprise system where, you know, kings and paupers and pimps could all mingle in the same world. And I think that's changing now. And, you know, those and when you see those kind of numbers, you know why fighters are saying, hey, I want my fair share of that. You know, I want my piece of the action on that. You know, it doesn't matter what they're doing. And the thing is, though, the sad thing about this is nobody is doing it in the hopes of helping future generations of fighters or helping other fighters today, because you would think with that kind of money, how difficult would it be now to create the pension fund or the health fund that's needed for fighters and whatnot?
What was that thing that we looked into? That's kind of the purpose of it. You remember that crypto thing I was telling you about? I was trying to get the guy Lee's. Lee, we'll get onto Conlan and Wood, but like Lee's been out there and like but there is something going on in Dubai with like a token and pensions and stuff. It seems like they were trying to do that, but it's all done by one company. It'll always go a little bit wrong.
And that's the thing too. It's like, unless it takes off, it'll just be like a little.
I mean, there has to be, if there's that kind of money around, if the television networks, whether it be Sky or ESPN, can inject this amount of money into the sport, how is it there's no money to help fighters post-career? You know, like there's something wrong here. We're not taking care of the right people. And I think if you did an inflation check, you know, let's say from 1974, and I'm guessing on this, but if you took an inflation check from 1974, when, you know, Ali and Foreman, you know, got $5 million for their fight and put that into what it would be worth today, I'm not quite sure it would add up to what Dillian White and Fury are going to get. So it's and site fees and whatnot. I think we're creating a divide again in the world that it's not good.
Was you obviously you said you thought that it was going to go to the Usyk Fury route, yeah?
Yeah,
is where it was looking pretty likely.
Listen, common sense pointed to that. Common sense pointed to that for for a few reasons. One being after the words had come out, that Anthony was looking to change his training crew. Would have made great sense for that to wait. The historic implications of that would have made great sense. The tickets, the money that it would have generated. To put things into perspective, if Fury versus White is worth the 42 million that they put, then Usyk has to be worth 84 million. Usyk Fury has to be worth 84 million because it's twice as good. It's easily twice as good a fight, and more
and undisputed.
The thing is as well is that they can't. So when you're dealing in, because there's like wide prices and all manner of talk about like DAZN acquiring BT Sport, which is what Fury is attached to here. There's like, as I've been told that deal has been done and it's just a matter of time now. So you got that element, and then you can't possibly let your AAA golden boy, which is Tyson, to Frank Warren, and to be fair, Bob Arum, he loves having a heavyweight champ. You can't let them fight on a DAZN card. You can't possibly let Matchroom take that. And like, there's other stuff with that as well. Like Dillian's dealing with Ben Shalom, which is Boxer and Sky, and like it. I don't know if maybe there's like a factional thing popping up. The
weird thing I find with all this is I feel like there's so much money on the table because they really want to hype up an AJ Fury dream match. The problem is, like, I see the biggest potential winner out of all this, Usyk, and the biggest potential loser on this, AJ, because Fury has clearly said, if AJ doesn't fight him, I'll fight Usyk and I'll fight AJ. If AJ loses to Usyk, I ain't fighting AJ. What's the fucking point? And Fury is the one guy I believe that would stick to that. All the other people, I think money talks and whatever. Fury's walked away before. I think he would do it again. He's just waiting for the opportunity to do it. Be like, look, I got all the belts. I've done it again. Fuck this. I'm out. So it's great for Usyk. He gets for sure, because you've got those bargaining chips and be like, you paid this much for this fight. Come on now, open the checkbook. But for AJ, you can be left out in the cold. But I mean, he's always going to make money. Let's not get it twisted. But if they want this massive fight with Fury, that's a risk.
There's no fire there yet, but there's some smoke in what you say, Streets, 100%, because I think Joshua was already a wealthy man.
Yep.
The step aside money probably wouldn't have made an impact on his life. I mean, it's say
just more time to train, isn't it?
But this is it. That's it. So it's 15-20 mil, and you're looking for a new training team. They haven't even announced who it is. The earliest you can fight really is summer. Why not take 20 mil and get better? Because you're out the game anyway.
Okay, let's say that's the thinking, right? And so you get another extra 20 mil in the bank. Okay, that's good. You're training longer. Yeah, that's good. Now, what if you think Fury has a legitimate chance of beating Usyk?
Right.
Now Usyk loses the belts. Mm-hmm. Fury has all the belts. Now, from what point of bargaining strength does Joshua come forward besides popularity for him to call the shots in a fight versus Fury? It makes
that's enough. Yeah, that's enough, and that's what's been happening because we've, like I said, Streets and I said this, that basically, irrelevant of what has happened, every single outcome is centered on AJ. That's the mad thing about it. AJ is the one that just took the L. So the step aside, down to AJ. If Fury and Usyk can fight, that's down to AJ saying no because I've already hit my rematch clause. And on top of that, AJ is the only one really not saying anything other than I haven't signed anything, I don't know anything about this, and that's massive news. But you got Fury giving it what he's done before. He might have cried wolf too many times, and Usyk's not a you know, we'll see him dancing a little bit with his missus, but he's not there talking shit. I would like if he did. I loved it when he was giving it Derek, how are you on the beach? My favorite.
Oh yeah, that's really talking shit, huh?
Hey, Russ, if that man knocked on your door and said, well, see you soon, and then every time you saw him, he was just coming up saying, how are you, Russ? How are you? Until one night you just maybe wake up dead.
Maybe.
Maybe. You never know with that dude.
Maybe. I just don't look at that as being quite talking shit. The other stuff is really talking shit.
Yeah.
You know, you're a dosser, you're a pussy, you're a coward. That's talking shit.
Yeah.
That's talking shit. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it just goes to show you that we as three guys who really love boxing, and I'm in it, you know, and immersed in it. This is almost, again, a little cult group dealing with money that's not even fathomable, you know, because don't forget something. If this kind of money is put on the table for the fighters, 42 million for the fighters.
Yeah, how much are they making?
Yeah. Well, look, we'll think about it. Bob come out today, and I know Bob's been talking wild shit this past couple of days, isn't he? But he's saying that will do 500,000 in the States, and Warren is saying that he thinks that Fury and White does over 1 million here. I'm not sure about over 1 million, and as a fan, there's just such a boner killer about a BT Sport pay-per-view for some reason. I don't know what it is, but like it's just something off with it. I don't know, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
That's your area of expertise. I tend to think that, you know, I think in.
I thought you were going to say that you stream all your fights. Then that would have been sick.
What's that?
I thought you was going to say that you streamed all of your fights with like a magic Amazon Fire Stick, and I was like, that's so G. Like even the ones that I'm there for, I watch them, but you know, partially legally, whatever.
Well, listen, to tell you the truth, the Better BF fight was the first pay-per-view fight I bought, and I can't even tell you how long because
you're normally there.
I'm usually there. You know, and then people say, "Hey, did you see this?" No, I was there. What did they say? And I'm trying to find clips of, you know, what did they? What was the set on TV? But speaking of Fire Stick, I do have one, and they're quite wonderful. I just got it, so I very much like it. That's where I saw all these old shows. You know, we get back to conversation.
What have they got this weekend? That's $74.95. Because that's a bit saucy. There's
Thurman, isn't it?
Keith Thurman.
Yes, Thurman Barrios.
Yeah.
I swear there was another one that's pay-per-view where I'm like, is this pay-per-view? Is this a 75?
Ortiz was $74.95.
That's right. That's right.
And that was basically money laundering. That was an exercise. That was an exercise in intelligence testing. That was like anyone that did that, their account immediately notified the Central Intelligence Agency, and they know that they can never. Those people are sub-military grade IQ. So obviously we can't have these lots. So let's just give these the other. I'm not going to say that actually. It gets pulled off. Never mind. Very quickly, how did you get hooked up with Callum the One Johnson? Because when we were chatting, I thought you was going to be in like Joe Smith's corner. I was like, that makes perfect sense. I didn't think you'd be in Johnson's vibes.
Can I speak at my normal rate, or do you want me to actually speak very quickly? So can I speak at the normal
It's been
rate?
a very long day. You can speak at normal rate.
Give us all the deets, or us elaborate at your pace.
Listen, I've had the pleasure of knowing Callum since my association with Joe Gallagher, you know, going back to the Crawler days and Smith, and, you know, just the evolution of the fighters that he had in his gym. And one of the first fight that I actually worked with him for was, I want to say Shawnee Monahan, I believe. Shawnee Monahan, when he came over, when DAZN started promoting in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So he fought over here in the States, and Joe asked me to work the corner, and I did. But then, unfortunately, the next fight was Callum against Better BF. Yeah. So obviously I couldn't be there, which very sad, you know, because I work with Arthur, and I've been with him since his pro career. That's my guy, and you know, they were respectful of that. And you know, and I love working with Callum. Callum's a great guy. He's a really, really wonderful guy, and I enjoy my time with him. And he's a tough, hard as nails fighter, and I was really looking forward to being in that corner. Just as an FYI, but that's how it happened. But as an FYI, in less than 6 weeks, I have had 3 major fights canceled because of COVID, like directly, that I would have been directly paid for. And thank God I don't rely on that to eat, but I could ice. It was the first time since all this pandemic stuff started that I realized how impactful it could be.
Who's the third? Because it was Beefy, Callum, and who's the third?
Better Biev.
Oh, you had COVID.
I had COVID. So
yeah, because COVID had wanted no part of Better BF.
No.
Listen, whatever COVID, cave they thawed that boy out of, boy.
Since Better BF had COVID, COVID's never been the same.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's where Omicron come from, that, isn't it?
Yeah. But I had it, and then Callum had it, and then Jesse Vargas had it. So I've had myself, the guy I work with, and the guy I'm working against, one way or another, affected me. So
man in the corner just had it. You just flying kicked it and give it an elbow.
Last week. But this one, it seems to go so quick. It was like 4 days from positive to negative.
I still haven't gotten a negative because I haven't had to get a negative. So I mean, I had the positive, did the thing, and everything's good. I did notice, however, over the last couple of days, for whatever reason, that a cough which was going away seemed to come back a little bit, but now it's okay. So it's crazy. And then here, all the issues that are going on. I don't know if you guys have heard about this trucker convoy that's been happening across Canada. Where the truckers have been protesting and driving. So now, simply, I just asked this message on Twitter. Like I said, it doesn't make sense that we're asking people to show their vaccination passport when they go to stores or restaurants. Okay.
Yep.
But yet the people who work in those said stores and restaurants don't have to be vaccinated. So I thought to myself, well, trucker sits all day in his rig, driving his rig, blowing his horn, talking on his CB, listening to country music. He's having a good time. What threat is me if the people cooking the food in my restaurant are not vaccinated? So, and apparently there's 90% of the truckers are vaccinated. So you're telling me that 10% of unvaccinated truckers you're blaming on this pandemic that exists in our country and why our hospitals are overloaded. So a lot of this stuff is just, I'm trying to be as logical as possible and as sane and I don't profess to be a brilliant guy. I'm just thinking, common sense. So 1 and 1 equals 2 normally. And now it doesn't. And it's confusing.
The world's like boxing now, though. It's gone fucking mad. It's like sense has gone thrown out the window.
Yeah. That's right. So, all right. Well, as we digressed again from boxing to
what we
do to fix it? That's what I'm saying.
It's banter, isn't it? This is what radio. I'll tell you something, guys. This I don't know if you're old enough to know this, but the first thing I wanted to do when I left high school, I wanted to work in radio, and I wanted to be a morning man. I wanted to be a radio morning man. That was
welcome. Put on the
good morning, guys. And it would be this kind of banter that you'd be waking up to, and people would be driving to work listening to this craziness, that we're talking about now. Phones would light up on the switchboard because they want to talk, and this sounds exactly like that. This is a throwback to what I loved, and this is the banter of 3 guys talking, and it's a good chemistry.
Here it is. Now I'm gonna sour the mood immediately and tell you straight up. I'm gonna look you in your eyes as your friend and tell you that my boy Lee Wood stops Conlan in 9. Now I'm telling you this. I'm gonna leave it at that. You can say what you want after that. I'm saying that. There it is. Discuss.
Okay. Good. So I'm saying it not.
Okay, obviously.
After it happens, then you will either have the opportunity to say, I told you, or I will. And
one of us has got to be wrong, That's all I'm going to say.
One of us will be wrong. Yeah. And you know what? That's the same thing that like at a press conference and weigh-ins and fights, everybody says, this is it, I'm going to do it. And the statistical fact is, it's a 50% inaccuracy rate. That's not good. It's not good odds, right? So we'll see. But I'm telling you that Mick is a special type of fighter, and Mick will finds ways. I think we've seen Mick look average in some performances, and I think we've seen him look world-class in some performances. And yeah, he's human, and that's going to happen. But there's something about that indomitable Irish spirit and that Irish heart, coupled with a boxing brain from a boxing background and from learning about and knowing about his brother's career and what he was able to do.
Usyks, have you seen his brother?
I'm sorry?
He's so creepy. Like I'd never actually seen him before. And I was just like, wow, Mick looks, well, that's not Mick. That's okay. What's going on there?
I went up and talked to the guy and thought I was talking to Mick. What do you thought?
That's what I'm saying. I was just like, are you Mick's dad or something? Jesus Christ, you look a lot like Mick. And then they're sitting next to each other and you're like, oh, this is no.
But he's special. And listen, Lee Wood's a hell of a fighter. You know, Lee Wood can punch. He's a good fighter.
That's such a great fight. I'm so happy they made that fight.
Yeah. Me too.
I think that the fighter that Conlan can be happens in the comeback after Lee. I just think that Lee's having his peak. I think Lee is now on the ascent for as long as it lasts. You know,
that last fight was a banger, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like you know,
is that the one against Sukan?
Yeah.
You'd like he went in like a shocking underdog. Like no one gave him a chance, and he just fucking won it. Like I thought he battered him. You know?
You thought?
I thought like the score. Yeah, he did batter him. No, but the scorecards weren't showing that. They stayed it a lot closer. Like he fucked him up.
Yeah.
Big. Yeah.
Listen, he's a good fighter. There's no doubt about it. And he does carry an equalizer. Like he can punch. There's no doubt about it
as well.
But you'll see. We
will.
Next.
What do you think? To loop it back to the big boys, what do you think is the overall act? Do you think that we get an undisputed, or do you? I mean, because like there's only so many outcomes. Look, if AJ beats Usyk in the rematch, then AJ and Usyk happen for a third time, and who knows what happens, right? It's for me very unlikely, in my opinion, that Dillian beats Fury, because I think that Fury can do anything that Dillian can do, as well as be much bigger, move and do what Fury does. So then that leaves Fury pretty much on his own for a bit, whilst AJ and Usyk maybe have another rematch after the rematch, depending on who wins, right? I think that Fury bins the alphabets, rocks up with the ring belt, which is over Streets' shoulder, and just says, I am the champ. These other ones are for everyone else. Maybe if one of you lot gets all four, then you can fight me. But until then, go away, and just completely just demoralizes the division.
It's all of those scenarios are possible, brother. I mean, it's so up in the air. I don't even know what to say, because listen, neither do you, neither do Streets. We're all, you know, hypothetical guesses, and we don't know. Anything could happen. And even with Fury, he can say one thing. I mean, it was so sure that they were going to fight. The Joshua fight was a done deal, mate. I'm not fighting Joshua. I'm fighting Wilder. You know, like, I mean, there's so many possible things that could go wrong. I give up. I give up on this.
I've got faith in. I truly feel Usyk wins, Fury wins, they fight. We get it, because anything other than that, I think this turns to shit so badly. And like something makes me think those scenarios equal undisputed. Well, anything along the way, no.
Streets, if the reason you'd be right in saying that is because Usyk is going to do whatever it takes to get the fight done, just like he did with the Joshua fight. And I'll clarify something that I don't know why people haven't mentioned this, but technically speaking, there should not have been a rematch clause in the Joshua
in a mandatory. Fight. Yeah.
He's a mandatory, right?
Yep.
But they made the rematch, because otherwise Joshua probably would have just said, don't need this fight, give up the WBO title. Then Usyk would have fought somebody like Joe Joyce maybe, or somebody for the WBO title, which everyone would have looked at it and said, first of all, for very little money, and people would have looked at it and said, that's just a splinter, it's not the real title, wouldn't I mean? So, you know, despite trying to have rules and set things in place that to make everyone follow it, they had to do that. And that's because it just goes to show you that, Egis and Krasuk and Usyk are doing things to make the fight happen. They're being proactive. Whereas in a lot of other weight categories, lightweights, they're coming up with so many ways to not make fights happen. They're creative in their ability to destroy fights that could be happening, and all because of networks and promoters. It's ridiculous. I don't know. Sometimes I'm even beginning to think I'm even starting not to blame the fighters anymore, because the fighters would probably do whatever they're told that they have to do. So when they're told to shut up, they shut up. And when they're told to speak, they speak, and that's it. But the culprits here is the networks and the promoters behind this, who don't want to see anything happen that they don't have complete control of, and so they're using the fighters as pawns, and we're not getting the fights we should be getting. I mean, how do you have a division so talent laden as the lightweight division and nobody's fighting each other? It's insane. It doesn't make sense. Well,
it's like Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran just going, nah, not fighting them.
I'm not fighting him. Nah, not fighting.
But I don't, again, like you said, I don't think that's down. Like Tank will fight anyone. Cambosis, I think, will fight anyone. Loma will fight anyone.
To this whole, he's only going to fight a Mayweather signed person. I mean, just.
If who? What's that?
You know how Floyd was like, he'll only fight people that sign under my. It's like, literally, seriously, you're going to take him out of the most stacked
PBC
division.
only. Yeah, it's madness.
But Tank has no say in that.
Yeah,
no
say in that at all. So it's, guys, I'm telling you, it's we've reached an era in the sport which is leaving bitterness everywhere, but yet in other markets and Showtime seems to think they have their own little world of boxing. They don't mention anybody else, only the people that are in Showtime, and the Zone does the same. And then it's all splintered everywhere. And really, I think it's those networks that are probably causing the most damage of why fights are not happening. Because like I said, it was up to the fighters. I think you're fighting this guy, this is how much money you're making. I think they take the fight. I mean, now they're powerless.
It is a bit better on this side of the pond. Slightly, like not much more, but you do have Matchroom guys fighting on Queensbury on Matchroom. You have Sky fighters. Sky pretty much like to be on Sky, but there's just like, there seems to be an abundance of talent in the UK that seems to operate without being signed to anyone. Like Dan Aziz, for example. Dan Aziz is a free agent. His last fight was boxer, won the British title, and now he's
not going to
around.
It won't last long. There's not a lot of guys. Look at it. I mean, you can look at all the fighters out there now. There's not a lot of guys that are potential, money guys, of fighter guys who will win fights, so who will win championships, that are free agents.
Yeah, the thing is,
even on your
so Don Kingham, they'll keep him out of the mix.
Oh yeah, Don's got 2 world champions now, hasn't he? He's got 2. Again. Hey.
How did that? Now you want to talk about that? How did that scenario play out so perfectly? How was that orchestrated in Ohio? The fight was in Ohio. Why was it in Ohio?
I don't understand what you're asking. Listen, we did a whole episode. We did like an hour and 50 minutes on Don King, like his life, and he's just a wild dude. He's just wild. To be fair, his boy Bob, he's wild as fuck as well. He's not he's slamming all women's boxing. He's doing dark arts, arranging shit. Like, that's Lomas boy.
Trying to fuck Bud at every opportunity he can get.
What is
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I agree with that, though. I'm not sure that I agree with that. I think. I'm not sure. I agree with that, Streets. That's
really?
No, I don't know.
Because for me, my take on it is, if you've got, I get, like we were saying with the shit talking, not everyone does that, and it should be about what happens in the ring. Right. And if you're the promoter, you're getting your money. If he's not doing it, if he's doing his bit, like he couldn't do any more than what he's doing in the ring. Like Bud is an incredible talent.
100%.
He handles shit.
100%.
He's not like, no one wants to hear him talk, so it doesn't sell. But you can't, I don't think, if you're a promoter and you're bitching about him for ticket sales, it's like, he's doing the boxing bit. Like the thing that he's supposed to do, he does incredibly. And the promotion bit it should be like, if there's someone to point a finger at, it's yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I just feel for Bud in that sense. I'm like, man.
I just had this conversation with a colleague of mine here, and we were talking. That's the new excuse for promoters not doing their job, you know, and blaming the fighter. Okay.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the days when casinos came into play, and all of a sudden they started going to promoters and saying, hey, we'll give you 500,000 to put a show on in our casino. And the promoter says, oh yeah, 500, we might be able to get it done for you for 500,000. And when they leave the meeting, they say, these guys are crazy. I can put this show on for 125 grand.
Yeah.
You know? And so they stopped promoting. They stopped promoting.
Right,
you know, they were delivering shows. So technically, as far as I'm concerned, promotion stopped, you know, maybe when main events kind of ended their run with the 84 Olympians, where they used to run real shows, sell real tickets, you know, the way you used to do stuff in the old days, and sell tickets and put asses in seats, and they printed posters and they hustled and they went out there to do it. That changed with the casinos. And now it's the same thing now. You know, now television outlets are paying. Promoter doesn't care. His nut is covered. He hasn't even sold the ticket yet, and his nut is covered. So he spends even less on the promotion. He doesn't make posters. He doesn't do all this extra stuff because he's already made his money on that. So sometimes, yes, the fighters, you know, are a victim of that. But at the end of the day, in terms of the business end of it, he paid Crawford. If anyone would have come out and said, I was supposed to get this much, he only paid me this. He was supposed to pay me this. He paid me this. He rolls me money. But that's a problem.
That's Don King.
But in fact, you were. In fact,
what was it? 1,500 a week for towels?
Yeah.
In his own house.
They were nice towels, bro.
They were his towels.
Tyson's fan club, and like all the letters were unopened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, in fact, the fact remains that Crawford was paid very well for the opposition he faced. And I know there wasn't a bunch of talent available to him because other networks and promoters had the other welterweights who certainly weren't stepping out of the way. Basically, in my opinion, what was done here was a freeze out of the Top Rank relationship with Crawford. All the other guys who had the welterweight said, no, you're not getting him. And they knew that they weren't going to get Crawford wasn't going to get the big money fights, fighting the big names, because they had them. And so it was a freeze out. Top Rank obviously couldn't deliver those guys. They weren't those guys. You know, they weren't theirs. Those fighters weren't theirs. But in terms of what he was paid for the opponents that he fought, bro, I would take that career any day. And he did. He went to Top Rank, got the deal. He re-signed with Top Rank because he was happy to get the deal and the money they were paying for. So this business now, of all of a sudden, they're racist and they're
I feel like that did seem like almost a bit catchwordy, because like I was like, especially with Aram's part, like he's dealt with people from like I think Aram is the only race he sees is money, right? Like that's it. If it makes sense, it makes sense. But I just felt
so hard not to say something right now.
If it makes sense, it makes dollars. That's the saying.
Yeah. But like, I just felt when he was going in on Crawford, I'm like, okay, man, but like he's a hell of a fighter. Like that's his bit, and not because I don't want it to get to the point where Eddie Hearn saying these fighters need to watch Jake Paul. Like that's how and I'm like, no, like the last thing we need is more of this shit talking just so that a fighter can get paid.
Right. I'm going to interject here. You are 100% right. Okay. But in this day and age, with how easy it is, I mean, like you're looking at, like, I'm just looking at the stuff we have here, which is industry grade stuff that you can have at home for not very much money. The amount of people that know how to use it, like if you're Bud and the issue that you have with promotion, and he's got the cash and he's got the people around him, why don't we have more like exposure to Bud? Like, why is there not someone making their own individual 24/7-esque, like, this is my life, this is the fighter's life, all of this stuff to make it? Because this is where Ryan Garcia come from, right? Ryan Garcia, he is a good fighter. he is a talent, etc., etc. He was the YouTube, Instagram boxer who's that actually can fight. You're like, oh, but I thought you was one of them. No, you're actually all right. You know, whatever. It's a mix of
he has the ideas.
guard.
Like he's a young kid, you know, so he knows all the trends and this and that.
Right,
He
well,
does that.
put it this way, but you
like,
personally,
yeah,
you hate all the shit talk. You hate that side of things, the Jake Paul, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You also do a very good job of self-promotion on socials.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There just needs to be someone that handles this. Like, it just can't be the same video of a bud hitting a bag.
For sure. I mean? But all I'm saying is I feel for, because some fighters, they're not gifted with the gift of the gab. So then they get a bit like froze out. And it's like, I'd rather them spend the time in the gym than like fucking trying to do PR. Like, fuck that. Like, let the promoter try and build them up.
Okay. My turn.
Go on. Tell us.
In a contract, it never says, the contract that you sign promises you your number of fights and how much you're going to get paid. At the end of the day, that remains the ultimate responsibility of the promoter to fulfill that obligation. And there's never been any question of there being breach of contract for those responsibilities. Now, you do two things. What Rob said, you go out and you pay someone and you promote yourself, and which is like an investment in your own career.
I think so.
And I think a perfect example of that would be somebody like Ebony Bridges, who has decided to invest in her own career. And
hey, we can't be doing that gesture at that time about that person.
Sorry.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Let's
continue. Ebony Bridges.
Yes. I don't know what you're talking about.
My hands would have been far more open than they were. But however, and she's great. Like I love talking to her. I have no issue. But she found a way to invest in herself, which other people have done. I have done to a degree when I started my career, you know, being a trainer, being a comment. I reinvested in myself. I'd go places for less money just because I wanted to be there. So you invest in yourself in doing that. Or you turn around and say, I've got the contract. They're paying me this much. I'm happy. I'm fighting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
A- type guys or B+ type guys for A+ type money. And I'm okay with that. So it's both ways, but you can't turn around and
no, but it's never enough. It's never enough. Like on that A+ money that you're talking about, it's never enough because the Jake Paul over there, who's had 6 fights against no ones, is matching you for cash because he's talking hype on a pay-per-view. You're like, well, why am I not getting that much more?
I want to believe with Bud, it's like not getting the fights. Like I really want to think that's his thing. Like I should have been signed to the bigger fights. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would like to think that Bud doesn't want to be stuck on the pay goes with the fights, but I think he wants the Spence, he wants the this and that, and it's not happening.
So who didn't he get, Streets? What fight didn't he get? He didn't get the Spence fight.
That's the one.
Pacquiao. He didn't get Pacquiao. That was the dirtier one.
I'm happy about
that. Get Pacquiao. There's nobody you could mention, any fighter you can mention that he did not get. Can you blame on Arum? It wasn't his bud. They kept. That's what I'm saying. They froze him out to make Arum be the bad guy. He can't get you the fight. He can't get. No, he can get you the fight because there's no amount of money he can't pay. So if Pacquiao or anybody said, I want this much to fight Spence, he'd have paid it. But you didn't do that. You didn't bring your fighter to the table and said, we want to fight Crawford. And this is what we want for it. No, you just held back and said, see, they can't get you the fight. They can't get you the fight. But if you come with us, we can get you the fight. We can get you the fight.
But why doesn't that happen with Eddie and Boo Boo? Because what has Boo Boo got to do to get, like, he's got to go up fucking another weight now to fight for an interim title. Like the geezer just can't fight anyone. But Eddie doesn't take any flack for it. Eddie take no. I mean, he comes out and he just.
Who does Eddie have that he can put him in there with?
This is it. But there's middleweights out there.
Sure there are, but in every generation of fighters, you come across a guy that is so good that his name makes it to your list of, we don't want him on our list. The same way that Mayweather had his list of fighters that he was never going to fight, regardless of what happened after, whatever. When Margarito was at the top of his game. That was a fight that they didn't want. You know, he was on the blacklist. You know, banned. So I think Boo Boo is what in the old days you would have called, you know, the spoiler. That's the guy you want to stay away from. A southpaw who could fight, who could punch, and who you can't hit. Those three combinations, when you're looking for opponents, and those three things come up as he's a southpaw who can fight, who can punch, and you can't hit. Okay, you're off the list, bro. You're off the list. You're not making a short list for this because that's how good he is. And I've known Boo Boo since he's a kid, since he's probably like 13, 14 years old. And he was always a great fighter. He was exceptionally gifted and talented at what he did. And he is a guy that's hard to fight. And the thing is, he does the right things. He speaks well. He's articulate. You know, he tries to do all the right stuff. He should be a marquee guy.
Yeah.
But because he's so good, all the other people who don't have a vested interest in him have done everything in their power to ruin him and ruin his reputation and just, again, freeze him out, box him out so that he doesn't get that opportunity.
But he's still a world champion. Like him just as an example, he's a two-weight undefeated world champion. Like I was going to ask you when we was talking a minute ago, like how many AAA fighters have to lose before the promoters and the industry understand that the fans really don't mind a loss? Like it's how you lose. Okay, fine. You know, but like we've seen Loma lose. No one cares. It's just like, all right, cool. When are you back out? We saw
the media cares more than the fans. Yeah,
but it's very selective on who they do that to.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering, like, at what point, because a lot of this stuff is protection of an asset, really, isn't it?
Of course it is.
But that asset's value goes up with great fights because you go back to the 80s, you go back to the 70s, even the 90s at heavyweight. Like the O doesn't matter. Like Streets, when have you ever cared?
Yeah, well, I mean,
it just makes Floyd more exceptional, doesn't it? You know,
there's that, and it's also too where, like I feel sometimes people attach themselves to people once they've had it. They want this undefeated phenom, but sometimes they gel with them a lot more once they've taken a loss because they're like, oh, it's boring now. Like, you know, with the Klitschko, not that saying they were undefeated the whole time, but when they were just on their reign, people are like, oh, it's boring. I don't even want to watch this. You take a loss and it spices things up. So I don't really get what the whole problem is, what this attraction. I know Floyd made it sexy to be undefeated and all that, but yeah, it's about the fights. Like the four kings all lost to each other. Like who gives a shit? As long as you get in the fights, that's what it's about.
There's always was a certain one of the things that fans love was a certain vulnerability about a favorite fighter that they had. Sure. And you know, for as popular as Mayweather was, he had just as many detractors as well. There are just as many people who hated him as loved him. Okay.
Well, people wanted to see just in case he lost. Like a lot of the ticket sales were that.
That's right. Oscar De La Hoya always had this much more popularity than Roy, even though Roy was a way better fighter.
Yep.
But the reason he had that was because of that sense of, you know, vulnerability, you know, that he could possibly get beat, you know, and then he would win. And so the people supporting him would rejoice. Whereas with Roy, you know, everyone who supported Roy, you never doubted for a second, not that he'd even would lose the fight, that he'd lose a round or two in the fight, you know? So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. But it's with as far as Boo Boo's concerned, there's a lot of middleweights out there that you never hear guys. They want to fight Jake Paul. I want to fight Canelo. Would you like to fight Boo Boo instead? He's not nearly as good as Canelo. No. You like to fight Marius Bradis? He's not nearly as good as Canelo. No. You know, but it's that typical thing of they want to fight. You know, I want to every welterweight in the world after every fight said they wanted to fight Mayweather, and everybody said they wanted to fight Pacquiao. I can beat him. No, you can't, but you will get paid more than anywhere else. So we have to take that with a little bit of grain of salt. But Boo Boo it's not right. The critique and the career and the respect that Boo Boo has gotten is not fair. He should be in more high profile fights, and the organization should demand it that these guys fight him. Why aren't the Charlos and the other middleweights, why aren't they made the mandatory and say you got to fight Charlo, you got to fight Boo Boo? Instead, Janibek is the mandatory, and Janibek was ready to fight him. But what's that going to generate for?
Well, this
for
it
Probably not much.
it was purse bids of 200 grand, wasn't it? And because we spoke about it on an episode, when you're like, that's an undefeated 2-weight world champion with the biggest platform behind him and the biggest promoter behind him, and he's fighting like 200 grand's 200 grand, obviously. And I'm not being bougie, but 200 grand to like that, it should have maybe
200 grand is training camp expenses for a world title fight, bro. What are you talking about?
There you go.
Yeah.
How much of that do you get?
A couple hours at the snooker club, maybe.
Flat fee and some sushi for the hotel room, yeah?
Yeah, and then that's right.
Yeah. A wonderful per diem.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I feel that we've covered a lot of ground.
It's a different world, man. And but I because I know exactly what Boo Boo's going through, because I went through this with Otis Grant when I had Otis Grant. And if you look at Otis's record, he's on the road because none of the middleweights here in Montreal would fight him. They just refused to. And there was a plethora of middleweights that came through at that very same time. And I'll never forget this quote in the local newspaper. Just saw how much they wanted to discredit Otis. When Otis fought Roy Jones on the day of the fight, so that morning, the paper, that the reporter wrote that the reason Otis has chosen to fight Roy Jones is so that he could avoid a confrontation with Stéphane Ouellet.
It's probably not true.
Not only is it not true, but that's like
to
go to war against Nazi Germany instead of Switzerland, you know?
It's a very different affair. Speaking of your boy, Roy.
You like that one, Streets? The penny just dropped now.
Yeah, he loves it. Yeah.
I got the second laugh out of you see? Yeah.
How do you feel about your boy's charge this weekend? Are you going to be watching?
My who?
Roy's charge. Chris.
Oh,
Eubanks
Chris.
Jr.
Yeah, of course. I've been texting Roy, actually. So we'll see what's going to happen in that fight. Good, tough fight with Liam. But Chris is a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. I think a lot of the critique about, if I'm not mistaken, lost to Billy Joe and lost to
the Billy Joe one was very close.
Yeah.
It was one of them ones started too late.
One round too late. Yeah.
Okay. So and there was another loss that he had. Slips my mind.
Oh, George Groves.
George Groves.
Yeah, George Groves. His arm fell out in the 11th round, and he done the last round.
I remember that. Yeah. Hey, man, these are two world-class guys.
Groves is a massively underrated fighter.
How do you use that as a black mark against Chris Eubanks and as a blotch on his resume that you lost to those? Listen, Chris can fight. Believe me when I tell you, he can fight. Forget attitude, forget whatever you want. Don't pick out personal stuff. But when it comes to fighting, you're in a damn fight when you fight this guy. You're in a damn fight.
Well, we warmed pretty heavily when Roy took him on, because you just like, if Roy's taking him on, he's like, it can't. Because
he always seems like he seems, if you wanted to, like on paper, write out all the attributes to make a fight, he seemed to have them, but they just didn't seem to come together. And then when he got on board with Roy, it's like, all right, they're gonna, like, if there's a man on the planet that's gonna bring it together, like this speed and all ability to produce the power, it'll be Roy.
Well, I got to tell you what the advantages of having a Roy there are, and it primarily is 1,000% effective with a fighter who has the persona and ego that Chris has. A regular, normal, qualified, and competent trainer.
Yeah, he said it in interviews. The only man that could do it is Roy.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference of, there's nothing, son, you can say to me that you have done better than me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah. When this initially got announced, I said this ends up on a Triller fight between them two.
This is the thing that Roy brings to a table. And if he can get if you can get one of the greatest fighters of all time, and definitely the greatest fighter of our generation, to take an interest in you and tell you what to do, your ego already, is here. Now you got the greatest fighter in the world telling you you're good as well. Bro, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. And I love being around Roy when he's around fighters, because no matter how much they talk, no matter what they think of themselves, when he shows up, they're humbled. And when you're humbled, you have a way of learning more. You have a way of absorbing more. Your ears suddenly open and your eyes open, and you hear words and you see things that normally you don't see because you're so wrapped into your own self. And I think that's a great quality that Roy brings to the table. So it's I'm looking forward to it. And Roy's my
next
friend.
on the road.
Huh?
When are you next on the road? Rapologying.
It looks like right now, I mean, there might be a fight here in Montreal. We're still waiting for what restrictions are going to be held. The heavyweight Arslanbek Makhmudov is fighting. And then it looks like off to the UK for Conlan.
Yeah.
Where I will do my best to make your prediction so wrong.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fun. It's fun. We are going to be. We'll try, depending on dates and stuff, because I think that's your Scotland thing.
Right.
We may be in Nottingham for that, even if we're just there for like weigh-in or something on because we're trying to get press now, Russ. You know what I mean? We're just that big.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah.
With Jamaican flags all over it.
We're gonna
yes,
do the,
man. Yes.
We're gonna do the cool running suits. It's gonna be powerful.
Of course.
Got you one as well.
Well, I hope we covered the topics you wanted to cover today.
I think so. I think so. And I'm very proud of myself and you about not slipping into a proper conspiracy checks. It almost went there. It really, really did nearly turn a couple of corners.
Oh, I wasn't trying to get there, because that's another thing that's gone crazy in this world. But
dude, I can't go truther on a Monday night. Like it just it sets up the week for just disappointment.
Well, this just feels like now, like we've reached, it's almost 10 o'clock in the morning, and now it's time for the next crew to come in. And hope everyone's had a great day this morning. Waking up to the morning show, and Fighting the Warriors morning show, and I hope you all have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow at 6 a.m. We'll be back.
Literally, I'll be ripping a horrific fart for whoever has to sit in this chair next, and don't touch my microphone because it's my mic. Yeah. No eye contact on the way out, please.
And now the music starts to play. The next song goes in, and we're off. It's radio, baby. It's radio.
As always, a pleasure. I believe that we will probably at least be able to take you for a cappuccino in Nottingham, hopefully. And
why you're not going to eat?
I'm trying to. I'm down like 20 pounds.
Ollie.
Yeah, he's bulking. I'm trying to get.
You can come watch us eat then.
Fine.
And if you're down 20 pounds, you have room to eat.
No,
I'm the one who's saying I shouldn't eat.
Listen, I need to get back to that shred life. You know what I mean? So I go. Can't have him just all fucking bulking and being famous and running around with like fucking superheroes and stuff. Am I just the cuck in the corner with a cap on?
It's not the superheroes, it's the supermodels that are that's the impressive stuff.
They're more fussed with the superheroes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you don't need that. Mr. Anber, thank you so much for your time, boss.
Thanks so much, boss.
Great, man. Wonderful.
Love
do it again.
Let's go. Thank you, sir.
All right, brother.